Welcome, dear listeners, to Satanists Nextdoor. We're your hosts, Lilin
And Tommy Levine.
Whether you're an open-minded, curious onlooker or a fellow Satanist seeking camaraderie, our goal is to share our personal experiences and delve into the intricate tapestry of Satanism in our daily lives, occasionally inviting other guests to share their unique perspectives, leaving no pentagram unturned. We'll explore how our beliefs shape our views on society, dive into struggles and triumphs we've encountered, and reveal the humanity that unites us all. So grab your favorite chalice and join us on this captivating journey. Satanist Nextdoor is ready to peel back the curtain and offer you a glimpse into our world, one captivating episode at a time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Satanist Nextdoor. So tonight we're we were talking about some different topics, and Lilin, you had one that has really been on your mind this last couple days that you said that you wanted to talk about, and that was the Kate Cox thing going on here, because it bothered you, and it bothers me too, but there's
I think it's only gotten worse since we first started talking about it. And, I'll go ahead and throw it out. There's a little trigger warning for folks that might be sensitive to things that have to do with abortion topics. But that being said, we know that there's a reproductive health care crisis happening in all of the United States right now, ever since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And it actually started about 2 days ago. I saw two good things come out, where one of them was that Kate Cox initially was given the go-ahead by the first court that this went through to go ahead and have an emergency abortion. And then after that, I saw another ruling where the Wisconsin was essentially granted the right to have abortion open up again.
They tried to block it, and Wisconsin said something
and the judge struck it down.
Yeah, the judge struck it down.
So that was where it was good. So that was a positive. I was really happy for the individual in Texas, because it's very difficult. And the important thing about that is this individual, Kate Cox, the fetus they're carrying has a condition called Trisomy 18.
Yeah, I believe that's it.
It's also called Edwards syndrome. And every case, of course, with abnormalities like that is different. And, there's no one way or another. These are all different instances, and each individual gets to handle it how they want. This individual already has 2 kids, was pretty much told that this was an unviable pregnancy, and even if it was to make it all the way through, that if the fetus was born and then the baby did make it through that process, it was very likely to die then or shortly thereafter.
A very painful death, too, from what I understand. I was reading an article, and they did an ultrasound. So right now, I mean, as the fetus is, it's like its spine is twisted, it's got clubbed feet. I mean, this is not a salvageable, or viable pregnancy in any way, shape, or form. And
no, it causes physical growth delays during development. The life expectancy is incredibly short, and they're usually accompanied by several life-threatening complications in addition to just some of the other things that you see. So it's not, for those that may have gone through this, I'm not going to speak for you, but it is not something that you want to find out that you're dealing with when you very much wanted to have a pregnancy and you were looking forward to that baby being born. So, not to be insensitive, but this individual was aware that this is a non-viable pregnancy. Mm-hmm. As I said, already had 2 kids, has had C-sections. If the fetus is to pass during this period, to do the process of utilizing natural drugs, hormones, and stuff to cause that to be, pushed out, would possibly cause her to hemorrhage and die, or cause other life-threatening issues, and possibly the future of her being able to carry a pregnancy to term. Again, she already has 2 kids. She does want a bigger family. This is not something she was looking to just do.
Yeah, this wasn't an unwanted pregnancy. This isn't a case of an abortion where they're arguing over an unwanted pregnancy. This is one where the mother very much wanted a child, but it's just medically not viable. I mean, the fetus the doctor basically said there's no chance for this fetus, and it puts the mother in severe health risk as well. She's already been to the hospital twice, and she's 20 weeks pregnant, so she's only 20 weeks pregnant, and she's already been to the hospital twice for issues.
With multiple complications. So the Texas abortion law pretty much states that substantial impairment of a major bodily function or death must be essentially imminent. There has to be a medical reason for it. So this, in my opinion, would probably be a medical reason. And yet, unfortunately for this individual, Ken Paxton, the Attorney General here decided to go after her after she got that judgment. And the important part of that, he sent a letter to every hospital that the doctor has privileges at.
Right.
So not going after her, because they can't. Decided to then go after not only the doctor, any staff, any facility that decided to aid in the process of the judge granting the abortion to go ahead. Said that they would essentially life imprisonment if you assisted in the process, and I believe it was like $100,000 fine.
Yeah, $100,000 fine and possible life imprisonment.
So now we're using these fear tactics and threats, and if that wasn't bad enough, because again, 2 days ago, yes, you can do it. The judge granted it. Ken Paxton jumps in to say, okay, here, if you do this, this is what you're going to be looking at.
Here, I'm a white guy that can't have babies, and yet I'm going to tell a woman who has a serious medical condition whose life is at risk. Yeah, whose life is at risk, what she can and cannot do with her body. Welcome to Texas, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, as if that wasn't bad enough, another judge says, no, it's fine. Go ahead. So only then 3 Texas Supreme Court justices, because Ken Paxton says, intervene, we need somebody. So the Supreme Court of Texas intervenes and says, no.
Yeah.
No, you cannot get this care that you very much need. And it just, I can't even be disgusted enough for this situation.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, it wasn't bad enough that we lost Roe. But then you hear all these people saying, oh, no. If the life of the mother or rape or incest, we're still keeping things like that. This is the talking points you kind of hear from some of that ideology. They try and make it sound not so bad. Mm-hmm. But you want a glimpse into where Christian nationalists are looking to bring America in 2024? Look at Texas. Mm-hmm. Texas is like the red flag for everybody to fucking see. This is where they're looking to try and do to America. And now, on top of that, because these really radical conservative ideology in the states that they did try and let people vote because they thought, we're a really conservative state, so why don't we let our people vote, and we're going to show them that people don't want abortion. Well, guess what? They lost every time. Mm-hmm. and abortion stood up, even in states like Kansas and things like that. I mean, these are blood red states, and still they got their asses kicked. So now they're like, well, you know what? Fuck that. Fuck having people vote, because as they voted in Iowa or Ohio? It was Ohio. It was Ohio. They voted, said yes, and now the legislature is basically backtracking and doing what Texas does and say, well, we don't really care what your vote was. We're just going to make it illegal.
We thought you'd go a different way.
Yeah, we thought you'd do a different way. So yeah, again, you want a glimpse at what abortion will look like in the United States, because now they want to make this a national thing, because at first the argument with Dobbs was states' rights. Now that states' rights aren't really working out that well for them, now they say that
federally
they want it federal. Well, Roe was federal. I mean, if we want federal, fine, let's go back to Roe. Right. Why don't we just reset back to Roe? But that's not what they want to do. They want a federal ban. And again, look at this case. This gives you the whole, it doesn't matter if the mother's life is in danger. It doesn't matter if the fetus is viable. The mother will still have to carry a dead fetus to term.
Right. And let's just be very clear, right? I mean, when you look at Roe v. Wade, this was an individual who had been raped. The ruling never came in time for them. They continued to pursue it because they felt like no one else should have to go through what they went through. And so now you have Kate Cox essentially doing the same thing because she's halfway through this pregnancy. It's gone to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's gone against her, like the Texas Supreme Court. So now it has to escalate. So we won't probably see something in time, but maybe. I'm going to be hopeful for her.
Maybe.
She can't easily travel, I'm assuming, because of the extreme strain that she's under already. And now, putting herself out there like this can't be easy because in extremist states like this, you're obviously going to get a lot of wackadoodles that want to make an example of her.
Yeah, I mean, these extremists, I mean, the posts that I was seeing is just sickening. They're like... Something to the point of, her baby's gonna die. She just wants to kill it quicker,
which is it's just so wrong.
What
right?
the fuck?
Yeah,
you
know that this is going to happen. It's inevitable. You want to prolong the suffering just because your morality dictates that something should have to suffer, so you don't have to feel bad about the ideology that you've gotten behind being affected. I think that God wants to weigh in on it, and so you should just let it suffer and languish.
Yeah, because God wants things to suffer, because that's how you learn lessons from God.
Or you try to do the most just compassionate thing possible, and things at an earlier phase where individuals, she might be able to continue to go on to have another pregnancy, which is what she wants, and the fetus doesn't develop to a point where it has to exist maybe in extreme agony upon birth.
Yeah, I mean, if, and it is a huge if from everything I've read, if this fetus made it to birth and was able to be delivered, its life expectancy is about 2 weeks of agonizing, excruciating pain. So constipate, all this fetus will ever know is pain.
Yeah, and I can't see how that's a positive. But that, again, we're not dealing with people that are playing with a full deck. It is completely just indoctrination at this point, in my opinion. But why is this important? What Kate Cox is going through, what's happening here in Texas, what other states are seeing. Well, Kate can do something a lot of people can't do. She has the ability through the legal system to have a voice. A lot of people right now are going through very similar things. It might not be trisomy 18. I've seen other stories come out where people should have been able to just make the choice that was best for them in a very difficult, painful situation and couldn't. And, maybe some of them just don't have the same platform that Kate has. And so Kate's doing the best she can to be a voice for those people too.
Yeah, there is a whole nother group of women that are suing this state of Texas.
She was part of that actually as well.
Yeah, and then hers kind of spun off on its own. A whole nother group of women that are suing the state of Texas because of similar situations. Either they were bleeding out, something like that. I mean, basically, doctors in Texas are so afraid to assist with a miscarriage that they're not giving an abortion. They are assisting to save a mother's life who is miscarrying.
Right. And sorry, folks. Yes, it's very much the same procedure.
Yeah. And so they're so afraid of helping with that they're basically telling women,
we can't help you.
Go back into the parking lot. And when you're bleeding out, come back in,
or you
and
have
then we can help you.
Fever, or you essentially have to be at death's door.
Yeah, or let the infection get bad enough that you are, you're running a high fever, and like you said, you're at the point of possibly dying. Then we can help you, maybe.
So let's punish people, right? So what you're saying is, again, in my opinion, what I'm seeing is you have to lose your rights to have rights. You have to be violated to have the right to something. You have to be told you don't matter enough until it's necessary for you to matter. And that's a horrible place to put people. And anyone that has reproductive capability is at risk of this, which includes our trans community, which includes our youth. It is anybody that may need care for any reason. And again, you don't need a reason for an abortion other than you don't want to be pregnant.
Right.
I'm never going to not say that.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry for people that feel like they should have had a different option, a capability. Guys, if you want to have the right to say something about whether or not an abortion should happen, Start with your ejaculation because that's the only voice you get. Whatever you choose to put that like out there in, then once it affects another human being, that stops being your choice.
Exactly. I mean, where a man's rights truly ends in their choice when it comes to the choice of whether a woman carries a fetus to term or not, ends when they ejaculate. Mm-hmm. They have that choice. They have the choice to not ejaculate in a way that will get a person pregnant. Right. And I say person because, again, sometimes when we're talking about abortion, I just naturally go to say women because it's kind of just a natural thing. But it does, like you said, it includes our trans individuals as well. Mm-hmm. So if me saying woman, just understand I do try and correct when I catch myself and correct to say person because it really is. People, anybody who can carry a fetus is affected by this.
Yeah. And it goes way beyond this because as a Satanist, one of the things that matters the most, and one of the reasons I align so strongly, especially with the Satanic Temple, is the emphasis on bodily autonomy.
Yep.
And that is something I think people lose track of what that means. When you're talking about the trans community, it means being able to make choices about your body, whether or not that's to, go forward with sex changes or any of the things that
you choose to do,
any transition, any kind of right that you have. I mean, it really comes down to anything: plastic surgery, bodily autonomy, sex, bodily autonomy, being struck by a parent, being struck at school, bodily autonomy. There's like a litany of things. Anything that you have the right to say what happens to your body, period.
Yeah.
Everything that could involve you as a person, you have a right to say whether or not your body can be touched, altered, used. It's yours.
Yeah, and some people might say, well, I can't have children.
It doesn't matter to me.
Right. But they might take the point, I can't have children, so, this doesn't really affect me. Well, no, actually, it kind of does in quite a few ways. If you are a person with a penis that can ejaculate, well, you could, even using birth control, which, again, that's another topic that we can talk about a little bit. They're trying to go after birth control as well. But maybe you don't want to be a parent and the person you're with doesn't want to be a parent either. And something happens. The condom breaks, something like that.
Yeah. You have medication, your birth control fails.
You've brought up, as we've talked before, things with our relationship that, it could bring up risks.
Right. I mean, occasionally we have other women involved in our relationship, and they have just as much say over their body, their rights, and we've been very clear at this point in our life we're not looking for any additional children. So we have those conversations, but look, things happen, and you want to have those rights to choose either way.
Yep. What
you will or won't allow with your body, including the right to abortion, including the right to carry a pregnancy to term, either one. Mm-hmm. But it goes further than that. So you look at Texas as an example. I don't know about other states, but let's just look at things like the obscenity statute, where
I was just about to go there. We actually have an obscenity statute. In Texas.
Yep.
So if you don't know about it, you should look it up. This isn't like one of those stupid "don't get my fish drunk" like they have in Oklahoma.
Hello, Oklahoma. What are you doing?
Hi, Oklahoma. These are real laws that are actually on the books. Some of them are enforced. Some of them are not. A lot of them right now are not enforced. But the problem is, if you look at the trajectory, Roe was legal, for 50 years. They got rid of that. They have told us, the Christian nationalist group who is vying for power, have told us what they're going to go after and what they're going to do. So I think I know where you were going with this. So I'll let you go where I think you were going with the obscenity laws here in Texas.
Well, yeah, and I had to double check because I knew about how many sex toys you were only allowed to have, but I assumed it was as many as it takes to stack up and equal one Ted Cruz. Yeah. Apparently, it's a little less than that, but because he's the biggest dildo in the entire state, I assumed it would be at least that many.
Yeah.
But it's actually 6 sex toys in general. You can only have 6 sex toys. So a device including a dildo or artificial vagina. So guys, hey, designed or marketed as useful primarily for the stimulation of human genitalia. So anything, only 6.
Yep.
So
you can only have 6.
This again, bodily autonomy. I should be able to have an entire wall of sex toys that I can use at my leisure for fun if I want to.
Yep.
And it goes further than that. We have our oldest daughter is gay. Her and her fiance have been together a long time. They're afraid to get married.
Yeah.
Why are they afraid?
They're afraid of Texas. They're afraid of the laws. They're afraid that if they get married, that's going to be on the books here in Texas, and they could possibly go after them. And why could they go after them? Because in the obscenity statutes.
Yes, oral sex, anal sex. Those are things they can go on. And don't, not to poke fun, but they've actually gone after people for the sex toy thing. It was a dumb thing, and it was really to extort people. But yeah, this stuff, it does have merit. And you look at this case with this poor woman, very different situation entirely. But there they are trying to just have the right to make a very difficult decision for their health and well-being. Mm-hmm. And honestly, for the health and well-being of the fetus, because again, non-viable, misery, not right. That is being taken away from them. Their right to decide what they feel is best. No one's going to pay her bills. No one's going to take care of that fetus or the funeral cost or any of the things associated with this situation. The care for the children they have. If she was to pass away, who's going to take that place?
Yeah, the state isn't paying that. I guarantee you the state isn't paying all of her medical bills now that she's having to go through because
they're extending it. They should have to pay.
Yeah, I mean, if they're forcing you to carry a fetus to term that is non-viable and is causing you medical issues, the state should absolutely be responsible for all those bills. Now, they shouldn't be able to do that anyways, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, if you're going to force this, then
it should be your bill.
It's your bill.
And, that's another thing. A lot of the states that push these extreme laws that take away your right to decide what you're allowed to do with your own body, they're not providing extended care for people. They're not ensuring that they get health care, food, homes. They don't care if you end up on the street with a new baby. They just want you to have it.
Well, they don't give a shit about the kid after it's born because look at Texas. They go after lunches. So
not just Texas, even North Dakota is another one. Why should we have to pay for the school lunch? I believe there's been several states. Hello.
Plenty.
Do hungry
states.
Children learn well? I don't think so.
Does a child that you forced to come into this world need to eat?
Weird. I think so.
The answer is yes.
And here's the best part, folks. The legislators that are making these laws, they get paid lunches. It's paid out of your tax dollars.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, this specific subject comes down to, I think, 2 tenets. One, most of all, is bodily autonomy.
Yeah, one's body is inviolable and subject to one's own will alone.
And I would say the other one is compassion and empathy.
I'd say it's more than 2 because the best science.
Well, yeah, okay, we can definitely.
I mean, you could honestly
probably put every single one in there. That
right.
This at least touches in some way, shape, or form.
But here it is, Texas, right? Oh, there's exceptions in there. We absolutely want to protect the people that are pregnant. No way we're trying to do anything to harm them. We just want to protect the, what is it they call them? The unborn babe. Think of the babies. Just think of the poor babies. Guys,
of the children.
It's a potential individual that's in the process of being created. It is a unique human organism in the process of gestational development. You follow me online, you've seen me say it about 1,000,001 different times. This is not a person at this point. It is not an individual.
Sentient.
It's not sentient. You can show me all the papers in the world that you want. Yes, infants that are born early, that are premature, they have reflexes, they have capability to function with a lot of machine assistance and a lot of help and a lot of surgeries and a lot of intervention. And at the end of the day, they're still not actually individuals. There are once they're born in the process still. They have some cognitive capability, but they are not individuals. There's reflexes. There's a lot of things going on there. So I get it. You are allowed to feel how you want to feel about it. But for me, nothing takes away from the existing, contributing cognitive, emotional, living human being that is carrying their pregnancy.
And again, I mean, this is the perfect example of pushing an ideology on everybody else.
Right. I mean, because what's the argument, really?
Right. And we're not saying religion should get involved in government. Yeah, we're saying some of these things are tenets, but all we're saying is people should have choice. That's not pushing a religious ideology. Choice isn't, whether I want eggs in the morning or whatever. That's me making a choice that I should be able to do what I want with my body, my choice.
Right.
It's not really an ideology that, because some people will come back and go, oh, you said don't, government and religion shouldn't be involved together. And then you said something that your religion should be involved in government. No, I'm not. No. I'm saying they should remove religion from government. In other words, remove this ideology that they're forcing on people. And then what happens naturally if you remove that force? Choice happens naturally.
Well, I mean, what I was very clearly saying is that I have this understanding that all individuals have a right to say what happens to their body, and it aligns with what I believe. It aligns with my religion being Satanism, because the recognition of oneself being self-sovereign, to be completely in control of their own life is paramount. And that should be a right for all individuals, regardless of what they believe. They should have the right to choose that they have beliefs that don't align with doing this.
Yeah, you don't have to be a Satanist to have choice.
Right.
You don't have to be a Satanist to have the right of bodily autonomy.
Well, let me put it like this. If you are a Christian individual who finds themselves pregnant, I don't ever believe anyone should be able to say, you shouldn't do that, and force them into an abortion. I don't believe that a person that has deeply held beliefs that are anti-abortion should ever be put in a position. However, if they should find themselves in a horrible situation and realize it's something that they actually do need, I don't hold that against them and believe they still have the right to choose, regardless of what their religion might say, whether or not they want to move forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, I will fight just as hard for a woman. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I will fight just as hard for a person who is pregnant and wants to bring the fetus to term, and let's say has a partner who is trying to force them to get an abortion. No, you can't do. If you're the person carrying the fetus, it is your choice. If you want that fetus, that is up to you, and I will fight just as hard
solidly
for your rights to do that. And I will tell the individual, if I was in the vicinity that is trying to pressure you into doing something you don't want to go fuck themselves. Again, their choice ended when they ejaculated. That was their choice.
Yeah, and not to be inconsiderate. Should you, if you're in a committed relationship, have the right to have an opinion, then share it with your partner? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And it should be able to be something they consider. But that's it. The end decision is ultimately up to the person that has to carry the pregnancy.
Exactly. I mean, will it maybe end a relationship? Sure. That is possible. And that is, choices have consequences. I mean, that's
yeah, not to say that you making a choice is a negative thing at all.
No, and a consequence doesn't have to be a negative thing. Everybody always uses consequences like negative. Consequences is anything that happens after a choice.
Yeah.
I did this, and this was the consequence. Doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing.
I think the reason I point that out is because a lot of the ultra-right often say, and I don't mean it like, the conservatives. When I say ultra-right, I mean the extreme Christians. These folks often will say, well, pregnancy is a natural consequence of sex. Guys, there's ways to prevent that. It is not a natural consequence. Children are not consequences. No, they're choices.
Children are not consequences, they're choices. The choice to have sex is not permission to get pregnant either. I see that one all the time. Well, you chose to have sex, and by having sex, you gave permission. You gave permission to become pregnant. No. Sex is fun. Sex is enjoyable.
It's healthy.
Sex is healthy. Sex between consenting adults
and only consenting adults
is a good thing. Sex between consenting adults does not equal has to have children.
Nope. And if you get pregnant and you weren't planning on it, you did the best you could to prevent it, or it's just something that...
Fuck, even if you didn't do the best you could.
Well,
you know,
hell, even if you...
Say you fucking threw caution to the wind and said, oh, fuck it, we're going to have some badass sex tonight, whatever the fuck happens, you still have the choice.
Yeah. Even if you intended...
You should.
Even if you intended to become pregnant and then something changed, whatever that something is, you have the right to say, you know what, actually, this isn't right for me.
Yeah, I mean, you could have had let's say you're in a marriage situation. I mean, let's just put it as far out there as possible in a situation like this. You are happily married couple, 15 years, been wanting a family the whole time. You get pregnant, finally, you change your mind. That's okay. And that's your right. And if your partner has a problem with that, well, you discuss it and all of that sort of things. But your partner has no right to say, well, no, we've been married for 15 years and we discussed this and you agreed to this. Well, guess what? I fucking changed my mind.
Yeah. And again, same thing. You could turn that scenario on its head and you could say, you know, they said, I never want to do that. And then it happened anyway. And then the pregnant individual says, oh, I want to keep it. They have the right to say that, and they have the right to follow through with that. Maybe they don't stay with that person.
Yeah, maybe the consequence is a divorce. You know what? And okay,
you know, good riddance, honestly.
Yeah, I'd almost say, well, you're probably better off with with doing that than with staying with somebody who does not respect your rights.
Right, and I don't mean to be insensitive. Again, that's not. It is easier said than done to have your life upended in that way.
Yeah, I was just trying to put the most extreme sort of out there so that people can see no matter what, the person who becomes pregnant, that is the person who makes the ultimate choice at the end of the day. And
like in this situation with Kate Cox, she did want this pregnancy. Her and her partner made this choice consciously. And even though you have the best of intentions and you have all the hopes in the world about what's going to happen in this scenario, you cannot control everything. And she found herself in the worst possible situation with not only having to mourn this loss, like already, because she knows. Now she has to do this publicly. Now she has to beg and grovel for basic health care to be able to make a decision about what she should be able to do.
I can't believe, 50 years after Roe, and we are all the way back to begging and groveling for a woman. A person. I was trying to give this specific example.
Kate's example.
Okay.
She is
for a woman right now who is dealing with a non-viable fetus that is doing damage to her both psychologically and physically.
Well, and you got to think her kids.
And
are probably
the
aware.
Rest of her family.
Her partner is aware. The pressure that these individuals must be getting, the threats that they have to be getting.
Oh my gosh, I see the shit said about them online, and it's just, social media is a shit show anyways. It's the worst of the worst people sometimes. I've met wonderful, the best of the best. But there's also this just underlying current of horrible, evil trolls. And some of them are, yes, actual human beings that think this way and speak this way publicly on purpose. These are not just keyboard warriors. And I guarantee you, this poor family is getting letters. And, here we are getting towards the holiday. Can't enjoy the holiday. Can't sit and just have peace with their family. Can't even be... It's just such a vile situation to put someone in. And then you have the legislatures. Obviously, they're not just keyboard warriors because they're actually bringing them to court. The fact that she had to even go before a judge
to grovel
and ask for this, and that the judge not only had to put her name on there but her husband to protect him, because in Texas we have the law where you can sue anybody that's helping, so naturally the people would have sued her husband if she went through with this.
The doctor now
and
any facility and any person, because this is not something that one person does alone. You have a team. The whole team is at risk. So there are plenty of people who want to keep their job. You have plenty of people that do not want to go to jail. That is the point. The threat. It's like you have people also building invisible barriers. Texas again. They have the tattletale law up in the freaking tippy top of Texas because New Mexico has abortion, Colorado has abortion, and people go there from Texas to get that abortion. And guess what? Now a lot of these lovely little border communities have decided to get on board and say, we'll tattle and civilly pursue someone if we believe. Now it's, again, not the pregnant individual. It's the people transporting the pregnant individual. It's the people that help to pay for the pregnant individual to make that trip. It's all this crap that they're going to supposedly, I don't know how they're going to know. Let's find out. Well, I'm going to go up there and we could stop by a couple gas stations on the way to New Mexico and see exactly how far they want to push it, just so I can understand what the hell they think they're doing.
Yeah, it could be like, are you still feeling okay after that McDonald's? I mean, I know you've been getting sick with this pregnancy and stuff like that.
Well, it'll be over with soon.
Yeah, don't worry, it'll be over, and then we can see if they try and sue me or something like that.
I mean, but that's where we're at. How far are they really willing to go? And isn't just an invisible barrier, folks. Is it connected? Isn't it connected? I'm not going conspiracy here, but they also have a physical freaking border. Hello, Greg Abbott. We're talking about you. That they put an actual border wall between the state of Texas and the state of New Mexico.
Yeah, it's a couple miles of like barbed wire and razor wire and shit like that. It actually looks pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But yes, he still put a barrier
And
between.
proudly.
Yeah, proudly put a barrier between Texas and parts of New Mexico. Now, his excuse was immigrants, and that was the excuse that he
Which,
made.
that's a whole
for
other
that.
episode.
That's a totally different episode. But you damn well know this was part of that as well, because a lot of people from Texas are going to New Mexico. Thank you, TST, for abortion care.
I'll take a moment to thank Samuel Alito's mom's Satanic Abortion Clinic, brought to you by the wonderful Judge Alito, who decided to go ahead and rule against continuing to allow individuals their rights and freedoms. So, Sam Sack, thank you for being there and providing abortion care to individuals everywhere.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know we talked about a lot in this, and it's a really heated topic.
It's hard not to be mad, and
so hard not to be
talked
pissed
about
off.
having different conversations, and I just could not get away from just the absolute indignation I have to be an individual who lives here who could have to need certain care that they've driven out the doctors I may need, to have daughters in a state where they may need to have that kind of care, to have individuals in my life that I love that are dealing with pregnancy and could need to have an emergency intervention. What happens to them?
Yeah.
What happens to the thousands of women here that can't take off work, that can't drive to another state, that are working multiple jobs just to make ends meet? Who cares about them?
Mm-hmm. And again, kind of going back to I have a penis, so I can't get pregnant. Well, guess what? If you have daughters that you care about, if you have a partner that can get pregnant, if you have anyone in your circle of loved ones that can get pregnant, guess what? This does affect you.
Yeah, and look at the writing on the wall. I say this stuff enough, and it keeps happening. And I'm not saying it's an absolute. Birth control, they talk about it. IVF, folks, they talk about it. Surrogacy, they're talking about it. Anything that involves a fertilized egg or an embryo, and there's thousands of these stored away for individuals for various different reasons. They want to essentially give these things personhood, and then it opens up a whole litany of what rights do you even have over these fertilized eggs that you've stored away. What happens in your future? What about the fact that for this to even be successful, you have to sometimes implant multiple embryos, and then you have to selectively remove some for your own health and safety? I mean, there is a whole host of things in people's lives that are going to be affected. And again, when you come down to it, they're attacking bodily autonomy. They're telling you what you can do with your own body. And if you think it only is limited to female reproductive rights,
You're wrong.
It has to do with all of our rights. It has to do with, again, transgender individuals being able to have a say over how their body is represented. It has to do with anything. And fellas,
I think you're going where I'll let you go because.
Well, I mean, if you I believe, again, I'll need a fact checker because I don't live in Russia, but I do know someone who does, and they said they can't even get a vasectomy until a certain age.
Yeah.
So, I mean, guys out there get it sometimes because they don't even want to deal with the risk of it. Imagine now you're in a country that is so devoutly worshiping fertility to the point that you can't say no.
You can't say no. You can't get a vasectomy. I mean, because again, this can start to encroach into the cisgender male role in the fact of, oh, well, we're going to make vasectomies illegal now. You just don't know where these crazies are going to end.
No, and it's not just Texas.
No.
All of the United States is at risk. And, a lot of things are happening, and we're all holding our breath for the upcoming election because there's a lot of nasty things that could come out of that. But don't think it stops there.
No, and where I was going to go with it was, kind of going back to some of these laws that are on Texas books. Well, if you enjoy oral sex, whether you're a guy or
the obscenity
a girl,
statute.
It's not far-fetched. It really isn't, because they've talked about, I've seen some of these crazy whacked out people that are running for office, and they talk about going after other types of sex. They're kind of like, unless it's missionary, and seriously, it's crazy.
Again, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep talking about it because we live in Texas. On the books right now, the ability to have anal sex is technically questionable. It is still technically illegal. Are they going after it? Not right now.
Not right now, but they did. I was seeing previews, and fuck, I forgot. I'm going to look this up. There is a series on Showtime and Paramount that I really want to watch, because they go over the lavender law. Mm-hmm. And most people are, what the fuck's the lavender law?
Yeah,
I've never heard of this. And it was a point in time, not too far away from where we're at now. It started in the 1940s and 50s, and it was specifically targeting homosexuals in government positions, and that included military and things like that. And that didn't just end in that went all the way into the 70s and a little bit, I believe, even into the 80s. Now, this particular, it's called Fellow Travelers, and it's on Showtime. It's on our list. Definitely need to watch it. But I saw a really good. It wasn't just a preview. They were talking about it on a news show. They had the actors on there, and the actors were telling it. Were kind of giving a. By the way, you all have heard of all these other things. Has anybody heard of the lavender law? And everybody kind of looked around and was like, "That. What the fuck is the lavender law?" And then. They kind of described it, and it's like, holy shit! And I think back to when I was a kid in the 80s, and I'm like, yeah, I actually kind of remember this shit.
Yeah. Well, I need you to understand, at least in Texas, the sodomy law isn't like this thing that's been in since the 50s. We're talking 1973, okay?
Yeah.
The sodomy law was put in place. It criminalizes homosexual conduct. It will affect other individuals, right? Because, let's be honest, a lot of people like to have oral sex or anal sex that aren't homosexual.
Yep.
Believe it or not.
But they call those
homosexual acts.
Them homosexual acts. So even if you are the straightest cisgender guy out there and you just enjoy blowjobs, they label you as having homosexual sex.
Now, constitutionally, these are just not enforceable. They are completely unenforceable because they're deemed unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2003. But guys, back to where we are right now with Kate Cox. This was something that was protected too. And then you look at that. So just this year, someone actually went out. It was Benton Jones, who, by the way, is a black gay Democrat from Dallas. And Jones is the state's first openly HIV positive lawmaker. Not because they're gay. That is not the way that works. I'm just going to get that out there right now. But it's so rare to have an individual who is not only black, not only gay, and not only HIV positive. This individual is proudly trying to speak up to stop discriminating against people, just to get it off the books. It's not enforceable, so why do we even need it? And I agree. So they went out there and they spearheaded this bill. It's been 50 years. 50 years it sits there. For what purpose? And then, it's like I said, 2003 it's inert. So if it's really something that we know we can't enforce, why do we still have it?
Yeah, and maybe it was the lavender scare or the purple. It was something like that. And I believe, and I could be wrong here, but I believe that's even where they kind of pulled the color purple into some of the symbology
So that goes back to the
LGBTQIA.
McCarthyism. So the Lavender Scare was where communists and homosexuals had peculiar mental twists. So that's what the Lavender Scare is. So that was something that was essentially a rhetoric that was intentionally put out there to go after and hunt down LGBTQ plus federal employees.
Yeah, federal employees. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
That they started, and again, communism. They kind of, they kind of put it in that whole vein of communism, the same way they got God in the pledge and all of that sort of shit. They went after any federal employee, and again, that went as far as including the military, which is when I remember Don't Ask, Don't Tell coming in, because before then, you could actually be arrested if you were found to be homosexual and in the military.
Yeah, well, it was like in 1969, the color came to symbolize empowerment, and lavender sashes and armbands were distributed to a crowd of hundreds in a gay power march. And this was in 1969, Washington Square Park, to Stonewall Inn in New York to commemorate the Stonewall riots. So lavender has a very deep association with the power in the community and things like that. So, but yes, it's the Lavender Scare.
Yeah. And so I know we kind of went, you might think, well, fuck, we started with Kate Cox and now we're talking about the Lavender Scare. They're all related. It's all related because it all has to do with bodily autonomy and your choice of how you live your life. You know?
I have to tell you, as an individual of reproductive capability, that you never feel like less of a human being than when you're boiled down to your basic biological capabilities and told you, only you, capable of these things, are not deemed worthy enough to decide for yourself.
Yeah, you're basically, I mean, the way that I read some of these laws that they're trying to push through, they're looking at women like livestock.
But anyone that has the ability to
you're
reproduce is at risk of being a second-class citizen in their own country, where your rights literally change from state to state.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep up with. And as a parent, I would be terrified, because if your kid goes to one of those states for college, well, if they find themselves in a certain situation, that could be an incredibly horrible thing. And they're going after people more and more. They're trying to make more and more things around this. They are trying to push the ability to create personhood around an embryo. And let's be very honest. They keep saying science says that it is a living human being at fertilization. Science does not agree when life begins. No. Science agrees that life does, in a way, start. It agrees that it is a unique human organism that is now different DNA. It's its own organism that's trying to develop into a human individual. That process isn't guaranteed. That process isn't something that will absolutely ultimately end in a living human individual. And that's what we have to keep in mind. We're trying to take away the rights and freedoms of living human individuals that are currently contributing to lives, work, families. Everyone talks about this potential being that could one day become a doctor or a lawyer or create the... What about the individual that's pregnant?
Yeah, the one that's hosting it. Because that's basically...
Or, you look at the reality here, there's young people that find themselves in situations where they've been, brutalized or abused, and they end up pregnant. What about that child? You care about all children. What about that child? What about the person that finds themselves in need of care and they can't get it?
They can't find a doctor because what's happening in a lot of these states, the doctors are leaving.
Yeah.
At least the OBGYN doctors, any doctor who might, I guess our dog has the opinion on it too, who might actually have to treat a pregnant individual. There are doctors that are leaving states because they don't want the risks. I mean, if I was a doctor, do I want the risks that I could possibly go to jail for the rest of my life because, a person was miscarrying and I helped save their life?
No.
That's
No.
fucked up beyond all belief.
Yeah, you could lose your livelihood. You went to school for this. You've spent a lifetime developing skills. You've worked in a practice. You have other people at risk, your team. You have all these people that provide care. It's not just the doctors that they'll go after. It's the nurses. It's anybody that touches the individual that ends up needing this care.
Yeah, the person that gave them their initial IV when they came in. The person that checked them in and did the paperwork.
Any contribution.
Anything. The Uber driver that gave him a ride to the fucking hospital.
Yeah. All of these people are at risk for what? Other people's opinion on what you should be able to do with your body. And poor Kate is in the middle of this horrific, situation, and they are, in my opinion, a hero. And they're right up there with the whole Roe v. Wade. That individual, they didn't get the help they needed in time to actually make a difference in their life. And they were forced to continue a pregnancy that was, conceived in rape.
Yeah.
And albeit, you each have that decision whether or not you wanted to do that. And hopefully you get counseling regardless of which decision you make. But that is the wrong thing to force a person to have to do. It should never be anybody else's choice but yours.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so heavy subject. The fact of the matter
very
is...
heavy. There wasn't a whole lot of laughing in this one. This was a lot of raw emotion here. And, again, I'm the father of daughters. And I just look and I'm like, holy shit, what happens if one of my daughters gets pregnant and goes through the same thing?
Right. What if they find themselves after deciding that they want to have a child with a child that is going to potentially be, facing the same kind of consequence? They have a fetus that's in some kind of peril and is not viable. What happens?
And no, the fix to this isn't, okay, well, Tommy,
your daughter should know better than to have sex.
Well, not I wasn't going to go there, but
that's what you're constantly told.
But the fix isn't, no, Tommy, okay, as y'all talked about, yes, Kate Cox should, and anybody in that position should go ahead and be able to give treatment, but we still believe abortion should be illegal for everybody else. No. That is absolutely not what we're saying here. What we are saying is this should be a woman's choice between her and her doctor, and anybody else can butt the fuck out of that decision because it has nothing. You even if you were the sperm donor, your choice, you had a choice until you ejaculated. At that point, your choice ended. Get it through your skull. So that's where I'm going with it.
So what rights and choices do you have? Well, you have the right and ability still to vote. You have the ability to affect change. You have the ability to write to your legislators. You have the ability to, stand outside of, they've listed out the hospitals that are going to be affected by Ken Paxton's giant mantram.
Well, the legislators aren't listening. I mean, people can write to them. I mean, they've lost vote after vote after vote after vote. It is very clear where America stands on this. They're just not listening because their ideology, they care more about their ideology and their radical Christian,
but they've made it clear what hospitals they've gone after.
Yes.
Send them thank yous.
Yes. Definitely send the hospitals thank yous.
Send the doctor thank yous because I guarantee they're getting other notes. Tell people you appreciate them being willing to protect and defend the individual that they're there to protect and defend. And, the lawyer that's also getting tons of hate mail. These people are putting themselves in an incredibly
dangerous,
perilous position to do the right thing, and it shouldn't be this. Yeah. So not only can you vote, not only can you share support, not only can you organize and stand together and demand change because we have the right to do that in this country right now. So take that opportunity to voice your opinions, to show support, to help register voters. Be like the evil Taylor Swift. Go out there and go forth and register voters. Encourage people.
Taylor Swift, the spawn of Satan. Yes. Oh my God. This woman who's promiscuous and not married and telling other people to vote. Oh my
the horror.
God.
Yeah. But as goofy as it is, they're afraid of people that are strong like that. And so, you know what? They want to be afraid. Let's give them something to be afraid of. Get out there and use that voice. Use those abilities that you have. Make ride shares, make plans, get together. The vote's just around the corner. I don't care how you vote. I just want you to remember the people that you're affecting with your vote. And I want you to stand up proudly and do something with it that's going to make a difference for your life and the life of your neighbors and your family and your friends that will matter.
And if you're busy as hell and you can't do like any of those things, the one most important thing that Lilin said to do, vote. Vote. Because as we said at the beginning, Texas right now is standing up, waving the big red flags.
Yep, this is what you can expect.
This is what you can expect. So this is what you want. And again, they're not all the way there in Texas. They've still got a long ways to go, and they are heading in that way.
Y'all haven't read Project 2025. We did a brief recap of it. There's a whole lot we didn't even touch.
Yeah.
And they're going after all manner of folks. You want to have a family? Well, you better have a nuclear family. The nuclear family that they want is the man, the woman, and the child, not the surrogate child, not the I got divorced and started a new family child. They want you and the person who created the kid together, regardless of how abusive or dangerous or horrifying it might have been.
Nope.
So, think about the future you're creating, because you are drafting the blueprint for our future.
Yeah. All right, with that one, I think we should probably...
Yeah. I got to pull it back. Pull it back.
Pull it back a little bit.
Take a couple of deep breaths.
Thank everybody that made it all the way through this. Pretty raw.
Yeah, everybody
episode.
Like some grounding exercise. Close your eyes, a couple of deep breaths.
Yeah, take some deep breaths.
In, out.
If you enjoy sex, go have sex.
Yeah, enjoy those freedoms, friends.
If you're asexual, don't
feel compelled.
Don't feel compelled.
Go ahead and make yourself a nice cup of coffee or some tea. Grab a book. Hang out with
chocolate cake. Something.
Do something satisfying for yourself.
Do something for yourself. And with that, I'm going to bid you hail Satan.
Hail Satan, folks.